only place for everything Vikings. 612 Vikings.
Welcome back to 612 Vikings. I am your host, Dustin, alongside Drew. And we also have a special guest with us. We have Minnesota Vikings corner and special teamer and fan favorite, Najee Thompson. Welcome to the show, Najee. How we doing, man?
Doing well, doing well.
Awesome. I know a lot of fans are kind of curious on how your rehab is going. Earlier this year, or I guess before the season, the Vikings put you on long-term IR, so you're basically out for the season and stuff. How has that kind of impacted you? You know, what's your mentality going into that, and what are you kind of making of that?
I mean, so how I went about it was like, so I ended up tearing my PCL. It was the first division game last year. We played the Bears. Like roughly the first quarter, I went down on the punt. Uh,
Mm.
I felt my knee give out then, and so I kind of just went through the year of just going through it. And I finally ended up getting an MRI. Figured out what it was, and like it was a decision. Like, you know what, I can keep playing on it. Um, don't know how much you're gonna like make it any worse because it's a complete tear.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can run. I can still do my jobs. I'm like, you know what, just do it. And then like January hit after the season, and it was like, if you don't do anything, it kind of helps the swelling and stuff like that. So I did that route, and then kind of we started back OTAs and everything. I kept doing rehab. And then like 8 months goes by, and yeah, it just wasn't getting better. And I wasn't playing football at that point, so I was like, I was kind of sick of just doing rehab and nothing was working. So I just kind of went in one day. I was just like, just give me the surgery at this point. And um, it was kind of it's a tough decision because it's like you lose a lot when you to do the surgery, and then you think it's early in your career, but when you just got to look at the term things, like for me, I look at it like my contract year is up. My contract year is coming up my third year. So when
Mm.
I'm back next year's contract year, I don't want to go into that hurt because then it's like, all right, now I'm limited practicing. I'm limited doing this, but I can practice. I can play in game Sunday. And so that's a whole different conversation you have with a lot of people. And then as far as when it goes to make the 53, that's another conversation. And
Mhm.
so it kind of makes things real tight and kind of makes it weird where you don't want to be in those situations. Where like, yeah, you can depend on a guy, but like I can't really use them in practice that much. And like with the Vikings, they're very understanding. They understood what was the process of it. Um, and we were going to go through with it this year, but it just wasn't going to work out because my knee would never stop swelling up.
Mm.
And I still could run and everything. It was just after so much swelling, it goes into the safety part of just playing, and it was just like not a smart idea to keep going.
Okay. Okay. Now, before we get too far into this, because I know Drew will have some questions, we'll have some questions from Twitter as well. But like, how long, or I guess, what's the timetable on this injury? Like, when are you expected, or when's the timetable of you possibly coming back?
So I'm at a full complete year. So I'm about the end of August. I'm
Okay.
roughly looking to come back. Um, and I can't push it any closer or any shorter, only
Mhm.
because I end up having the double bundle PCL surgery, and then I had an OATS procedure also. Um, and so I just went ahead and basically just fixed up my knee. Because like I was end up losing cartilage and everything with it, so
Oh.
just went ahead and just fixed everything up and go through the process of just basically building a new knee, basically strengthening it back up. So that way, like the job that I do, it gets violent on my legs.
Mm.
Like just the impact of like diving and everything like that. So I just went ahead and because you could have did one or the other,
Okay.
but kind of when you do one or the other, it's like a ah, you just
Don't
start.
want to risk it.
yeah, you start playing with a lot of different things. I'm like, just go ahead and fix it all, clean it all up, and I'll just go through this process. So yeah, it's a full year. So
Okay.
I'm shooting about the end of August.
Okay. And before we get to Drew's question here, I kind of want to get on this topic too of the Vikings. They've had a lot of success this year. I think a lot of surprise success to at least the outside of the facilities of TCO. You know, the fans didn't really expect to be what 10-2 at this point. Just kind of expected, I guess, a down year post from last year. What do you think has led to the success this year? Are you surprised by the success of this team so far this season? And how far do you think this Vikings team can go?
Oh, I mean, if you just look at how the roster's shaped up, you bring back a lot of defensive players.
Hmm.
Um, we got rid of some big names that we didn't really want to get rid of, but then you got to think business is business.
Yep.
So then you get rid of some big names, and then you reunite players that's already played with Flow,
Hmm.
and brought them back together. And so now you take away the structure of, oh, I got to teach all these new people this, that. You don't got to teach them no more. They understand the verbiage. They've been with them before. It's the same thing. All right, they come in. Now you got a bunch of guys that can play fast. So what that allows is, oh, now I can add more new things. I can give more disguises. So we're not on this. Let me teach what I already taught the other guys, the months before. Now I can teach new stuff. I don't have to worry about that. And it's like I said, we got some of the same rosters, but we just brought some new people in, but they've already been with the system. So it's like you just brought in guys that are just more experienced. You brought in some younger guys. You were able to get more guys also. And now you're just playing with basically a team that's been together before, but just at different places.
Sure.
And it's not much of a surprise at all. Like it offense, we got better on offense. um like, yeah, you say the quarterback was a this issue, that issue, and a lot of people don't look at it like we were doing well with Nick Mullins.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Nick Mullins sometimes might force a pass here and there, but Nick Mullins is going to put up 300-400 yards like every
Well,
game
like he
he was
did
in there.
twice against the Lions,
Yeah,
you know?
he's getting his yards.
Yep.
We had probably a turnover issue like as a team, and not put everything all on him. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, with throwing that much, picks come. Like, you see
Yep.
that with any offense, and that's understandable. And yeah, if we take some turnovers away that we had as a collective team, our record's different last year by far, and we
Hmm.
we understood that as a team. But it doesn't matter what quarterback is in that system. Like, you have some of the best coaches on the offensive side that is literally coaching the whole offense. And then, like, it's just, how can you do wrong when you have the offensive weapons that we have? Like, how do you do wrong? How do you do
Yeah.
bad? And so, like, that was the thing, like, going to get Sam Darnold. Like, okay, then you got to look at it. If you go get a quarterback that can also run with our offense, it just makes it even more dangerous. And it
Yeah.
makes it that much harder to stop us. And yeah, we play a lot of close games. That's just the history of the Vikings. It's close games, limited possessions, and that's just what it is. And that becomes from our defense. Like, it's a limited
Yep.
possession game, this and that, and that's what it's going to get. So it's not a surprise at all. It was just timing. Like, we got bad breaks last year with the ball bouncing the opposite way. And
Yeah.
that's what you look at. Like, the football's a weird shape. It bounces crazy ways. It didn't bounce our way. So,
Right.
like, we just end up short on the short end of things, and that's what you end up getting. Injuries played a part. Like, we caught bad breaks at the end of the year, and when you're trying to throw guys that's never been a part of the system or trying to learn the system, it's a lot of basic things that we only can do, and you have to keep it really short and simple and play. And
Hmm.
when that happens, sometimes it doesn't work in your favor.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point, real quick, before we get to Drew here, the thing about one score games, like that happens around the league too. If you look at the games this past weekend, I think, well, not even just this past weekend, just throughout this whole year, I think like 80% of games have been all one score. So it's not just the Vikings sometimes, although it feels like it is, but around the league, it's pretty much one score games here and
Oh
there.
yeah, all the
So
time.
for sure. All right, Drew, what do you have for Najee here?
Yeah, I think the big one is going back to last year. You kind of started off. You had a UDFA. You were a guy they brought into the 90 man roster in the preseason. Really made your mark as a gunner. And then the regular season came, and you had that big forced fumble against the Packers at home. Could you kind of talk about what kind of went into those plays? What do you kind of read when you're at gunner? Because some people don't really, they kind of see him as the guys that just run down the field, try to get that quick tackle. But what are some things like some of the fans that may not know a lot about special teams or what goes into that? Like what kind of went into that forced fumble play against Green Bay?
So for me, like I always look at a bunch of things. Like on Tuesday, I pretty much know what I'm facing. And so how I go about my daily routine with stuff is Tuesday I come in and I look at film, kind of get the breakdown of who's the starting guy, who's the backup guy, is their guy down, this is their guy, like, and so what I come in is like, all right, my coach always tells me, say, just go to the line and have a plan. And so I have a plan. And sometimes that plan does not work. That's just part of it. But the part of having a plan is, can you react in the split second of a decision when your plan doesn't go well? And that's for me, that's where I've able to take my game to the next level is I'm looking. I like when I go to the line, I'll look inside. Like I know this team is a bracket team, which means they bring a guy from the inside of the core out, or he stands between like the numbers in the hash, or right there in the middle of the field, he's just standing there. So like I'm looking at all that, and I'm like, all right, they don't do that, then I'm doing just this release here, and I'm like, all right. If he don't want to give me that release, then I'll have a counter for every other release that I want to do. So when it comes into that play, was I'm looking at the Packers. I'm like, all right, they like to bring brackets late, and so I'm looking here. Think we're around like they're 40-ish. So you kind of get into like a safe area where they're kind of in a rush predicament to try to get the punt off fast so you can get a return faster. Um, so I'm looking there. I'm like, yeah, I got single coverage here, and I just think that regardless when you have single coverage, you have to win. That's just like if you see Justin Jefferson 1-on-1, you're expecting him to win. That's how I treat myself out there at gunner. If I have single coverage, I have to win. I can't allow one guy to stop me. And so when I did it, I'm like, I was joking around with the guy actually. I told him, I said, I'm going inside here. And he was like, oh, you're doing this and that. And I was like, okay. So when I did it, he tried to give me like a quick jam on the outside, but had he missed completely. And so after probably like 5 or 10 yards, he just gave up because he wasn't going to keep up with me. And so then it was like, all right, like the ball's still going, the guy's like he's still trying to catch it. He's not gonna fair catch it. So I was like, all right, I'm going to shoot him because they just switched returners because I should have had the forced fumble earlier in the game when they had Reed back there. And I hit him. They called a kick catch interference, but it ended up being they ended up picking up the flag because he threw the fair catch late. And so that like the Packers are an aggressive team, and so you understand that like okay is he an aggressive returner or are they a fair catch team and everything like that. And so, like, you kind of know this going into the game, and you understand the returners, his history, and then it's a division game. Like, they're gonna try to return it. They don't want to sit and fair catch it. Like, they're trying to get every yards possible, especially in close games or even blowout games. They're trying to get their yards up. And for me, I don't care if you're beating us by 30, 40. That's my play. Like, I need to go make some type of impact regardless of the score. And that's just how I go about things because it's if I do the same thing when we're up 30 and down 30, now it comes rhythm, it becomes secondhand nature to where I'm not worried about that where the moment's never too big. I treat all moments the same.
Okay. Now I know you're talking
Thank you.
about beating your guy versus Green Bay with speed and all that, and it kind of made me think. I know speedy Jalen Naylor. He's probably the fastest guy now on the team outside of Kenny Nwangu, who's no longer on the team. Uh, I think that would be a fair point to say. Who do you think would win in a race, you or Speedy Naylor,
Uh,
or do you think it'd be close?
I'm always, always, always gonna take myself when it comes to racing and speed.
Yeah.
And now people get into the discussion of, are we going, what yardage are we going, this and that. I love myself when it comes to speed.
Okay.
And I just, over the time, like, I, I'm a lot quicker than a lot of people think, because people think, oh, it takes them a lot of time to build up. But I mean, yeah, he might get me at the start, but there's always a finish to anything.
Oh
And
yeah.
so like I love myself just able to, close the gap and finish. And that's just that. So I mean, it's a lot of questions, but I love myself being the fastest on the team by far. Because
Okay.
we have some quick guys, and I get it. But like in 10 yards, a lot of people are going to get me in 10 yards. Like, that's cool. But, you
Sure.
know,
You can have it.
yeah, you can have the first 10, but I'm coming.
Sure. What did you run a 40 at? Did you go to the combine?
No, I did
No.
mine at pro day, and it was
Okay.
hilarious because so we did our pro day. We had like 10, 20 mile per hour winds, and they end up switching the way we try to run 40s that day. And so all the times on the East Coast that around that time were absolutely horrible. And so what sucks at like pro days is they have a bunch of different guys doing the time. So like you might have a guy in the front that might get you at a 4.4, but then the guy in the back that's behind you, he'll get you at a 4.6. And then like everybody tries to combine these times, and they're like, oh, he ran that. So they were like, I ran a 4.6, which was a laughing stock. And what ended up happening was like Jacksonville was like, oh, he ran a 4.6, and so then that kind of started making things weird.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's why I personally hate Jacksonville, because it was like you're putting straight bull crap out there about me about speed, and basically saying like, oh, I'm slow, and I'm like, yeah, that's one thing I hate even taking any light to. Like, no, I'm not slow at
Yeah.
all. Like, I've always been fast my whole life, and that's one thing I always work on. And so when it came to possible like teams looking at, I was like, I'm not even looking at Jacksonville. Like, don't even mention them to me. I was like, I'll take my attention somewhere else, because
Mhm.
it was just ultimate disrespect to me that you're like, oh, like I didn't run no 4.6. Like, I
Sure.
know. So I was like, because like we had guys in the front, it's like, yeah, he's like right at 4.4. And I was like, yeah, your guy's sitting in the back here. Like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah,
Uh,
that's what sucks about pro days some days.
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like they can really jip you on some of those when it's like official, but it's also not because it's not like the official NFL combine.
Yeah.
But at the same
Yeah.
time, it's like, come on, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it is something that I think he came a little bit before you, but Cameron Dantzler, who's a former corner at Minnesota, he kind of got gypped on his pro day. I think they said he ran like a 4.5. It was like those weird COVID things
Oh,
going on, so
Yep.
it's like there was no combine. Everything was on pro day, and then he ended up falling in the draft because of his. They said, "Oh, he's slow," and actually made some pretty big plays for us. In that 22 season, he had that big strip fumble against another former Viking and Smith Marset. So it's one of those
I
things
remember.
where you can't always bank on one thing, and people try to like nitpick and try to find one thing that's wrong. And I think that it just seems like it was one of those things that went over to you with Jacksonville, but definitely got our got a little revenge on them a couple weeks ago. So definitely
Yeah.
was one of those things they had your back on. So especially to have that game end like that with what was it, like he pushed him or something like that, or had some weird
Yeah.
penalty that kind of extend the drive, give him a first, some weird thing like that. But it was definitely kind of just one of those things you just kind of look at. It's kind of interesting to see how things everything seems to happen for a reason. So it's just one of those things I think a lot of NFL players have definitely said. So
Let's see here. We got a question from Twitter too, from Alex. Uh, how do you? I know you haven't really practiced the new NFL kickoff rules or anything, but how do you like the rules? Is that something that
I
you're
think they
still trying to learn,
I
or
think they suck.
yeah, nobody's really happy with them,
I
I
think
don't
it
think.
sucks
So
because it's like you're. I get what you're thinking about doing. You're saying the percentages went down, and you're not seeing a bunch of explosive plays, this and that. Let's make it safer. But when you break it down, and a lot of people are like, it's safe. It's not safer. I don't think it's safer, because what you're creating now is you're giving a returner and the off returner. Those two guys are able to go full speed. All
yeah,
right. If he picks the left or right, Now you have roughly about 3 or 4 guys over to your left or right, 5 yards apart, and they're coming. So you got 2 guys coming full speed at you, and you got these other 3 guys coming. When that impact happens, instead of having, maybe 1 or 2 guys that get banged up on a regular kickoff, everybody within that circle now is banged up.
Hmm.
And so now you're having more concussions. Think there was a play where it might have been preseason where we had 3 guys get a concussion on one play. And
Oh,
it's like, yeah, like this is what this is. And like I I think I see, like I say, just back the kickers up. Just back the kickers up. They kick it, everything stays regular, everybody uses speed. And that's what it is, because like that's how a bunch of guys are able to, change their lives, like use their speed. And
yeah,
that's just what it is. Like you can't. I get that you try to make football safer. That's It's not possible. And you can keep trying to change the ways of the game, this and that. Like, yeah, offense sells tickets. We want to move them up further. Like, I mean, my goodness, how much further do we need to move an offense up? If if
yeah,
they can't, if your offense can't score, that's a problem where you need to look at your coaches and this and that, to where it comes to play calling. Let's not move them up to the 40-yard line, because now you can't play defense. So now you're taking away from defense. So now you're making it harder
hmm,
for the defensive players to play the game. Yeah, I get it that offense sells tickets, but what happened to 2008, 2009, where you're like, oh, the defense is winning games, defense wins championships. Like, are you
yeah,
saying offense is going to win championships now? Because you're looking in the Super Bowl, they're scoring 20 points. It's not like a 40-50 game. It's a 20 point scored, and that's going to win the game. So now
yeah,
you're like, oh, let's move them up further. Yeah, you're moving them up further, but now what you're doing is you're taking away from. You're saying you need a long snapper. All right. Now you're taking away from his limits. You need a punter. You're taking away from him.
yep,
Now you're taking away from a bunch of special teams guys that's not on the field. You're taking away from all that, and so now you're cutting everybody. You're cutting that stuff all the way short, because now you just want an offense defense game.
yep,
And I personally, I just hate it, because it's like, yeah, you're saying you want more explosives, this and that. We haven't seen that many more explosive plays. We've seen about the same. We see that same
yeah,
amount of touchbacks, this and that. The number might jump up a couple percent, maybe. But
hmm,
other than that, you're not seeing much difference. So
yeah. So
I personally hate it.
yeah, long story short, Najee hates the new kickoff return rules. Yeah,
Yeah.
with everybody else though, with everybody else. So,
Yeah, because my thoughts on it were, because I think it must have been like a decade ago. I believe they moved the like kickoff spot from like the 30 to the 35, because they're like, oh well, we want to get more touchbacks, because we want less guys to get hurt because they're not banging into each other as much on blocks. I'm like, if you're trying to get more returns, could you just revert back to that rule from like a decade ago, instead of having this goofy looking kickoff, And I know they got it from the what, the UFL or XFL or USFL, whatever those like little secondary leagues are to the
Yeah.
NFL. But so that's just like what my thought was. I was like, well, if you're looking at like trying to get more returns, just I think move it back, make the kickers move back farther, like you said. So that was something I was a little bit confused about. I thought, honestly, when it first popped up on Twitter, we were like, they're like, yeah, well, this could be a thing that they're looking into and the changing. And I was like, oh, there's no way this is going to get passed. Like the owners are so like, they're like archaic, like we do it this way, we do this way, and things. I'm like, when it actually passed, I was like, oh, I was like, all right, well, that's a surprise. Then they had like that hip drop tackle thing, and I didn't think that was going to pass, because I was like, how are you going to enforce it? And then that got passed. So this was definitely just like a weird offseason, like a lot of rules that got passed. And I was like, I didn't really think they were going to get passed, and then they ended up doing it. So
Yeah,
I know
I
there's
think
probably a
this is
lot of things they're going to be looking to change. So
Yeah, I think this is more of a year just testing it out. They'll go back and look at the numbers. They probably might keep it around, but then again, you might not. It could stay the way, stay the same for a while, and that's fine. It's just you gotta adjust it to it, whether you like it or not. Honestly,
yeah,
and that's just part of it. But I think it might get changed or tweaked at some point, just because I feel like it still creates a lot more. Um, Chance for injury, and you get more people injured than just like our regular stuff. Um, and that's just basically like telling the receivers now you get a running start when it comes to offense because another league does it. So I just think like
Mhm.
NFL should stay the NFL. Um, and if other leagues try something, yes, it's good to dip into it and check it out. But now that we have that, we're just gonna go through with it. And
Yeah,
I think like the game of football is changing a lot, and hopefully it doesn't change too much. We can just keep football, football.
Hmm.
yeah, for sure.
Before we let you go, Najee, I do want to give you or ask a few more questions here, just a couple more. So this one's from Dakota on Twitter. So you have been announced the celebration coordinator from last year too. So kind of going into that, what has been your favorite Cam Bynum celebration from this year?
Who? I think it was the one that he did with the Olympics. I believe it was.
Okay,
Oh, the ray
Yeah,
gun thing.
yeah,
Ray
Yeah,
Gun, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. It just shows like he takes time to actually look at this stuff and practice the stuff and like that's just the energy that Cam Bynum has regardless. So he's always just looking to bring even more energy in the room because like a lot of times like it can be a lot of stressful times. It could be a difficult game or something or a difficult week of practice for him, and he's just always looking to bring light. So when he gets that chance to do it, it's just like he's actually practiced this and took time into it, no matter if it's difficult a week or not.
Okay. Drew, did you have any other ones for him? Otherwise, I got one more for him.
Um, I can go with this one. So I know this past off season they were kind of moving you to. I think they moved you to safety. I'm not 100% sure if they moved you back to corner, but like they were doing like a position change during OTAs and training camp and all. So if you can kind of go into that, what their kind of thoughts were on that, and I think a lot of fans would be interested to hear about that
I
time
mean
for you.
that comes down to a lot of things. When I'm on special team when I'm doing special teams, it's a bunch of open space, and so that's what
Mhm,
safety is open field tackling. That was
mhm,
more like okay, I need to improve my game with that because I missed a lot. I should have easily went Pro Bowl first year,
mhm.
if I just make my tackles. Because I
Yeah,
started off rough for like first 8 weeks. It was rough, but it was just that was a process. Another process was like as far as learning things. It doesn't take me that long to sit and learn things. Once I'm able to get it, I can go with it. Another thing was just the confidence of doing stuff. I'm a type of guy that put me anywhere. If you need me here, I'll do it. And then a numbers game. There was no kind of point of having me listed as a corner when maybe we needed another corner. So now when you go to the numbers game, it goes to I can be the fifth safety, and that can be used as a special team slot, then be a fifth corner when our defense is more corner used. So now you can have five true corners that can play, and you don't have to really use a fifth safety. And so it comes down to a lot of different stuff. Just based off like my body type, everything, like I don't mind hitting. Like I will be in tight areas, like I have to go against linebackers and stuff anyways. So that's more of your safety prototype. So it's just more like how my game is played, tackling, and also numbers game.
Okay.
yeah, it's interesting
Yeah,
to hear.
it's like I bet it's not that much of a difference to learn corner versus safety. I know that it's a whole different position group, but it how tough is that to
So it's
switch
a
between positions?
massive difference, believe it or not,
Okay.
just for the simple fact at corner, you know you're knowing about probably one third. What you know the whole defense, but
Right.
you don't have to really like go into a game like going into a game week. You understand where other people are gonna be,
Sure.
but you don't have to vocalize that all the time. At safety, you're setting up everything. Like calls go through you, your checks go through you. Like you're the final say so,
Okay.
and you just got to know this. You have to know that. You have to be the brains out there, regardless, and like you have to be able to put that stress on you and make tough calls in tough situations. And not saying that corners can't do it, but safeties are able to see the entire offense
and can see like, all right, this is how our entire defense is set up. So it takes a little more definitely time and everything to get that done. Then at corner, because yeah, at corner you're to cover one, two, three, or four, or zero. But like based off our defense, you have to be interchangeable. Just based off the formation. Because if we play man, we might move a guy over and he has to align. So now he's at a different spot. So now he's at the safety spot. And so our defense is like a lot of guys are interchangeable. So it really doesn't matter. But when you're in our true base, they safety has to know the safety spot. It's just sometimes
Okay.
when you're in your dollar and nickel and stuff like that, where basically everybody's corners and everybody's safeties or something like that. But it is definitely a massive difference in the two. But it's pretty much similar. But you really don't put your safeties in a bunch of coverage spots like that. You kind of use your nickels and corners for that.
Okay. And then before we end off here, I want to get just two quick questions in. I'll just kind of ask them both at the same time here. What it well, the first one, what was your like welcome to the NFL moment, whether that's training camp during a game, whatever it was, and then how is like special teams? Is that learning like a defense or like a playbook in general? Like, is it its own section, or is that something that not anybody can play, but if you can play special teams, you can play defense, or how is that aspect?
So my welcome to the moment league was preseason going to Seattle. Um, I normally don't ever do kick return. Like that's if I'm doing kick return, I'm probably returning the ball or off returner.
Sure.
But I was on the front line and they kick it off and I drop back and I turn around. I'm like, where's my guy at? So I do a quick scan and I key in on my guy and he is full speed and I'm just like, yeah, here we go. And he just plows completely through me. And I was like, you know
Oh,
what? I just gotta embrace for impact here and just like, oh man. So like he went straight through me and then I just fell and brought him down with me. And that was pretty much like a welcome to the league moment there. Um,
yeah.
and for special teams, for like certain positions, like you can throw anybody out there. But
Okay.
this is where the disconnect comes. A lot of guys don't want to do special teams. Some
Yeah.
guys look at it as punishment. Some guys look at it as it's boring. Some guys just straight up hate it because it is complete dirty work. Every player out there, stuff does, they hold you everything. It rarely gets called. And for me, I'm fighting. I come to the line and I deal with a double team. So I have to work on making a 2-on-1 to a 1-on-1, and then I have to worry about the returner. I got to worry about the
Oh,
punt in the air, and it's like you have a bunch of stuff like people don't think you have to deal with like you're dealing with, and
sure.
a lot of guys just don't want to do special team because it's like you have a bunch of guys out there that some guys are just that's their only thing to do. They don't care. Their
Hmm.
job is to come through and hit the crap out of you,
It's a roster
and
spot.
yeah.
Like,
And so, I mean, some guys don't look at it rust spot because they want to go play deep because they never did it in their career until they
sure.
end up getting to the league. That now they have to go do special teams, or they did
Hmm.
it so little in college that now, oh, that's not your role right now. And for me, that was my role in college. Like I came in after high school, and I went to go play receiver. I was started off playing DB. Didn't have the footwork at the time, so then it was like I got to go find something to do. Switch to offense. I had a rib injury like starting off, so then they brought another guy in, and he ended up taking the spot because while I was out, he shined. So I was like, I got to
Hmm.
figure something out. So then I
Yeah.
just went and started doing special teams and was jumping on the punt block and this and that. I just found like a little nick at it and started loving it because like this is fun. And
Yeah.
so then that's why I found the love for it, and I just always continue to do it. I'm like, you know what? I'm fine with the 15 to 20 plays a game and able to change a game based off one play. Yeah, please keep me at this, and that's why I just love it. But you can put anybody out there. It just comes down to do they love doing it Do they want to do it? Are they willing to do it? And are you willing to basically run through a brick wall when maybe that wall will not move and maybe you're gonna fail doing it a lot of times
Yep.
before you find success at it? And so that's just my love for it. Like I don't care about doing it. Like it
Sure.
makes my days Monday through Saturday makes my days a little smooth. Like
Yeah.
I know Sunday's gonna be a tough day, but long as you prepare for it, like you do any other thing, if you prepare for it, then you don't have to worry about that.
Okay. Yeah, and that's how a guy like in the locker room and on defense, Josh Metellus, he started as a special teamer, and most
Yep.
fans
Adam
didn't really
Thielen.
know who he was. And what was it, 2021, 2022, when he really started to emerge and be that role player, that chess piece on that defense. And now look at him, he's, what was he, a Pro Bowler last year? I can't remember, but
I don't think so. I
I
think he
think
might
he
have
was
no.
right. I
missed.
think he was like if a guy was going to get hurt, he might have been a reserve
Okay.
going for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's on his verge to
So he's
being a
right
Pro
there.
Bowler, everything like that.
Mhm.
Like I mean, he's honestly like a great guy. Like
Yeah.
Josh is by far like a leader. Um, and he started with special teams, and he'll tell you that story. He'll tell you a story from being cut and everything like that. Like he's understood. He's done been through the process of everything. Like you need to learn from the NFL process. He's been through that. So now it's just like look at him, and look how he's just evolving each year, not only as a player, just as a leader for the team and even for the community. And so like when it comes to me, it's like, yeah, I knew I was coming in because like they got to move Josh's defense now. So it was like they had to find guys to come in and basically take his spot in being that leader on that team of special teams. And it was like, so when I was coming in, I had the conversation, able to look at the roster. And so it's like, coming in, it was like, all right, these guys are moving up. It isn't no, we need to fit you in. Like, no, you got to come in and get this done. And that's
Yeah.
just what it was. And it was like, are you ready for it type thing? And I was like, I'm ready for it. It's just like when the opportunity comes, I got to show that I can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you've
Yeah, for
you've
sure.
definitely done that throughout the years, or I
Mhm.
guess last year.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to be a player like Josh Metellus, where you're fine with special teams, and I think that with hard work and dedication, like you have been doing, I think you can be a good defensive piece or ace, special teams ace, like you have been this past year, and I think a lot of fans are excited for that, and for good reason too. Um, so yeah, we're very proud of you.
Yeah.
Excited to watch you play this next year when you get that chance and get to be back on the field and make some more plays. Um, and I know I broke my promise, but I just want to ask you one last question real quick. The number change. You started off at 36, went into the regular season with 11, and then you went back to 36. Is there any
So,
reason for changing?
so I came in at 36. That's the number I was just given when I was signed. When picture day happened, it was between Mackay, Ivan Pace, and I think Jay Ward for like number 5.
Okay.
And so out of those numbers, Mackay ended up getting number 5, and then Ivan kept his number, Jay Ward kept his number. So then 11 was open. So then they were like, "Oh, we don't want a corner at 36, yada yada yada." So then like Josh Mantel was like, "Nah, give him 11." So I was like, "All right, okay, I'll take 11." And
Hell
then
yeah.
it got throughout the season, and so you bring some veterans in. You know, they're older guys. They start looking at what numbers are available. When you have a 90-man roster, it's pretty limited.
Yeah.
36 was still open. I came in with it. So then, Coach O'Connell would, like kind of joke around at practice. Coach had they're joking around like, 36 is coming back. Like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? And so then he just, asked me Coach O'Connell asked me one day at practice, he's like, how would you feel about going back 36? I'm like, you know what? I don't care. Put me
You'll
back in
take
it.
it.
Like, I'm fine with it. Like, it's cool. That's what I came in with anyway. Like,
Yeah.
a vet wants a different number. Give it to him. I'm not gonna go crazy about it. Like, I came in with 36. I'll make it work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And so I was just asked to, switch that back so you don't get into, you know, predicaments of, oh, we need this number, this and that.
Or
And
any
like I
bidding
said,
wars.
yes, like I respect him as a coach, and he respects me. So it was just a pretty easy transition.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was kind of
Yeah.
curious about that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. Well, appreciate you, Najee, for taking the time for doing this. I know we're at the 40-minute mark already. It feels
Oh
like
no, you're
it's been
fine.
10 minutes, but
Uh,
no, we really do appreciate you being on here. We were gonna get Jay Ward earlier in the year, but things happen. The season's busy, so again, we appreciate you taking the time to do this, and hope you have a speedy recovery. We can't wait to see you out on the practice field and in a game again. You've been super electric. This past season. So, yeah. Again, thank you for joining, man.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah,
yeah.
thank you. All right, Skull Vikes.